Hello and welcome to day 2 of Taming Anxiety, our free 5-day challenge. And today we're going to look at taming the inner voice, that inner voice that brings on so much anxiety and fear in our lives. So before we start, I just wanted to quickly do a review of day 1, and I would suggest that you stop this video if you haven't seen day 1 and go back and watch it, because the content does build on the previous day. And so yesterday we looked at understanding anxiety, lots of psychological education about what anxiety is, and then I asked you for homework to look at the black and white thinking styles that we discussed yesterday, and just to start to get curious about which of those you notice, you recognise that you've had in your life or you still have. And so hopefully you had a chance to do that, and I would suggest that you keep alert, keep watching for these styles, because they're like perennial weeds. They come up again and again, typically through just the programming that we've picked up in life. All of us have these styles, to a greater or lesser degree. And so it's really about raising awareness, raising your presence, so that you are more conscious of them, so that they just don't, slide by, and before you know it, you're in a spiral. Okay, so just to recap, yesterday I said that there were 3 elements to anxiety: the physiological, so the physical sensations you experience with anxiety, the fear, the dread, the heart beating, the clammy hands, all of that. The emotional, so the emotions you have while experiencing the physical symptoms, so a sense of catastrophe, anticipatory fear, all of this stuff. And then the cognitive, the thoughts that go through your mind at the time of the anxiety. And so this is what we're going to look at today, the more cognitive side of it, because really this is one of the drivers. The physiological and the emotional, I don't know if you've ever been jump scared by a cat or something. A couple of weeks ago I'd been swimming and I got water in my ears, so I was really deaf, and I kept getting jump scared by my partner and the kids, just who were walking around the house innocently. I'd come up the stairs and then all of a sudden they were there and I hadn't heard them, because a sense that I'd been used to was alerted, wasn't there. So I got a jump scare, and straight away the physiological symptoms are there because it's a survival response. But as soon as you see it's your partner, it's the cat, it's the ironing board, whatever it is that you've had the fright from, pretty soon it can be intense, but within 60 to 90 seconds, if we don't do anything else with it in our mind, and we understand what we perceived as danger is not dangerous, the physiology will begin to rapidly go back to calm. Okay. What gets in the way is the mind then comes up and says, I can't stand this. What's this? It's going to get worse. This always happens. It's going to happen again. I just don't understand. All of this. So this is what we're really going to look at today. And I just wanted again to reiterate that these little security guards, the amygdala, part of the survival kit in the brain, they are ancient. It's Stone Age technology that we're dealing with in a modern world. And when the new layer, or the neocortex, which is our thinking, imagining part of the brain, our rational, logical bit at the front here, when this was added, it's a later addition, these little guys didn't get the memo. And so as well as checking for perceived dangers in the environment, the amygdala, the security guards, are also checking our internal thought system and our imagination. And they will alert as if there is a real life and death situation happening now, because they've got no sense of time. If they check and you're thinking about something that's happening in 3 weeks' time, and the thoughts are fear and danger and catastrophe, those amygdala will activate a physical stress response in order to allow you to run or fight, to get away from this perceived predator, because this is set up for predators. Okay. So let me introduce you to one of my favourite characters, the parrot. Okay, and I'm going to tell you a story. I'm going to tell you a little bit about the parrot and then his partner, the owl. And why this is so important is that this character of the parrot is not who you are, but it tends to talk in the head, in the mind, and it's been talking to you since you're about 2 years old. You weren't born with it. So as you came into the world and, you know, this little bundle, as someone looked at you in your pram, you were just curious and looking back and interested. There was not a parrot, a voice in the head saying, "Oh, don't look at me, I've got chubby thighs," or "I don't like this outfit I'm wearing today." You know, none of that. There was none of this self-referential voice. And this comes online when we're around 2 years old for most of us. And all of us get a parrot. It's part of being human. It's not wrong. It's just that the parrot has been over-promoted. And I don't know if you've heard the Einstein quote that the mind is a beautiful servant, but it's a terrible master. And this is why this parrot is there as part of being a human being, but it's meant to be a servant in the background, waiting for real danger to be able to activate. But innocently, most of our parrots, we've allowed them to be over-promoted, so they're these mini dictators bossing us around inside and really not giving us a minute's peace, which is causing so much anxiety in the world, so much anxiety. And it's a case of mistaken identity. Okay, and so hopefully as I explain this parrot, you'll get a sense of, oh my God, you know, my goodness, this is what's happening to me. And so the parrots come online around 2 years old, and they are given to us by you know, the age that we're born in, the culture, the family that we're born into, what's happening in the news and media at the time, the religion that we're born into. All of these messages come in and create our particular style of parrot. And again, the people that pass these messages down to us, it's from their programming. So they didn't ask for the programming that they had. And so this just perpetuates, which is why it's really important that we start to understand that, yes, there is a program running as we are humans. It's very fear-based. It's negatively biased because this program is actually part of the survival brain. And so it has its uses, but it shouldn't be ruling our lives. It shouldn't be running our lives because you know what it's like. It feels awful. It feels heavy and scary, and it doesn't need to be this way. So the parrot gets this inner voice, this parrot, what I'm calling it, gets its power through various different ways. One is because we identify with it. We think it's who we are. That voice in the head, I was stunned when I found out it wasn't who I was. It was just this program, because it feels so familiar. You know, it's chatting all day long. The parrot loves to, this is right, this is wrong, blah, blah, blah. It's like the narrator of life. And it's so familiar to us that it comes as a shock when we realise that's not who we are. And so it's the parrot gets most of its power through us identifying with it and believing it and listening to it and following its actions. The second trick it uses is that the parrot is a time traveller. Think of it like a seeking, resisting machine. It doesn't like what's here and it wants something different. So it's always seeking for something different and resisting what's here. And this time travelling ability, so parrots will, you know, fly out of the present moment and go to the past. And we're not really going to cover that today because that is more about low mood depression. But basically it will say either, depending on the nature or the mood of the parrot, look what I had back there, it was great, the glory days, and it's gone forever. Or look what terrible things happened in the past, either I did or they did, and it's just going to keep showing us this film, and that leads to depression. Now with anxiety, and a lot of people flip, the parrots fly between the two, so I understand that is the case, but I really want to focus on anxiety. So the parrot with anxiety, it will get you out of whatever you're doing in life, in the mind, and it will fly to the future. Okay? And it's like the worst mystic Meg. The parrot pretends it has a crystal ball, and it will show you a film, it will show you a future, and in terms of anxiety, it does a different thing as well about the future is going to be better and it's here and it's you have to jump through these hoops. But again, we're not going to focus on that today. We're just going to focus on this one aspect, which is the parrot will create this film of the future and it will be terrifying. Okay, this will be lost, this will happen, this won't happen. And because we've got such a vivid imagination, and people with anxiety tend to have a very vivid imagination, it's hijacked by this parrot, and Steven Spielberg has got nothing on us in terms of bringing it to life. Okay, and the parrot makes this image and it feels real, it feels true. And then the amygdala, the security guards are scanning and they see this film and they're like, oh my goodness, there's real danger here. There is really something to be afraid of. And guess what? They'll activate the stress response. Typically with this, the flight, I need to escape, I need to hide, I need to avoid this, I need to do this ritual to feel okay, I need to drink this to numb these feelings. And this has all been activated by this ability of the parrot to pluck us out of the reality that we're in and take us to a scary future. So, as the parrot, again, we really need to watch it because it will pretend to have our best interests at heart, but actually it only has its own interests at heart. So it wants to keep over promoted. It wants to keep us in this fear-based so it can get what it wants. Okay, and so it will turn on us. So I'll just give you an example of what my parrot tends to do. So my parrot, more so in the past, but sometimes it still gets me. Oh, Nikki, you've had a hard day. Why don't you have some chocolate? And if I'm not really present, or if I'm a bit stressed or a bit tired, and off I go, I'm eating the chocolate. Good idea. Okay, as soon as the chocolate's been eaten, up comes the very same parrot. Oh my, what is wrong with you? You never stick at anything. I thought you were meant to be cutting down in sugar. Remember that time in 2010 when you failed at this? And it's like, whoa, right? It was your idea and now you're attacking me for it. And you probably all have, your own particular relationship with a parrot. It sort of, pretends to be, this will help, whether it's alcohol or shopping or whatever it is, this will help. And then as soon as you've done it, boom, in it comes. You lose it. Yeah, so this really perpetuates this cycle of anxiety. Okay, so there's lots more I could say about the parrot, but because I want to keep this relatively short, we'll leave it there. Oh, actually, one more thing I do want to say is sometimes when I tell clients, coaching or therapy clients about the parrot, they're like, okay, how do I kill the parrot? How do I get rid of the parrot? And it's like, no. We can't get rid of it because it's part of being human, but we can have a very different relationship with it. We can demote it. Okay, so we don't want to be fighting this parrot. The parrot wants your attention, whether it's because you're believing it, but it's just as happy if you're fighting it because it's got the power, it's got the attention. And so what the relationship we want to start having is, oh, thanks for the information. I'll just see how it goes. Brilliant. So we want to turn the dial on the radio down. Eventually you'll be able to change the channel so you're not listening to this, but to start with, we're just turning the dial, the volume down. So think of it like a song that's not really your favourite, so it's just in the background and we just recognise it. Thanks for the information, but it's okay. We'll see. We're okay right now. Okay. So that's the parrot. Do you recognise it? It's easy to recognise in other people. Okay, but start to get to know yours and what it says, how it's frightening you, how it's keeping you small. Okay. The good news is there is another bird, and the other bird is our true nature. Whereas the parrot lives in the head. The owl is much more body, heart centered. And this owl, this bird, is unconditional love. It's our wisdom, it's our creativity, it's our presence. And this bird is untouched by anything that happens to us in life. You know, I said the parrot is programmed by life circumstances. The owl is outside of that. The owl is as pure and fresh and wise and loving as the day you were born, and it will be with you all through your life. And this owl is a beautiful guiding system. Lots of us haven't recognised particularly the owl in our lives, but at certain times in our lives, either in a sport that you love, or when you're painting, or in nature, or when you're with your dog or your grandchildren or your partner, sometimes it's enough for the parrot falls away and the owl comes out. You feel that okayness, you feel that guidance system. And often in crisis, this was certainly my experience at the most critical time of my life, the parrot just sort of imploded, and this owl, this beautiful, loving, peaceful owl, came to the fore and guided me through the situation. And so the owl is always trying to guide us, but it's a different type. The parrot's like a brass band. It knows, it demands, it talks, it chats. The owl is much more like a flute, like a gentle, intuitive knowing. It's a guidance system, and it's always recalibrating for the moment. The reason the parrot wants you in the past or the future is because it knows when you're present in the body, in the moment, using your senses, guess what? The owl will take over. The owl, you'll be able to feel the intuitive nudges of the owl, this essence, okay, this creativity, this beautiful guidance system. And the owl is very moment-to-moment basis. It knows the future doesn't exist yet, so it's always unfolding in small steps, just right for this moment. Perfect timing. And this is why the parrot worries us so much, because it thinks into the future, into all these unknowns that we can never know. Sometimes it might accidentally get it right, but most of the time it gets it wrong, and then it dismisses the fact that it was even, frightening us. All of the things that we've worried about that didn't turn out. But, even if things do happen in life which are difficult to navigate, when they happen, not when we're worrying about them. Yes, you can have plans, healthy plans, preparations, but not to be ruminating and going over and over and over the picture, because that's just getting us out of our wisdom. But when life happens, what happens is, at the very same moment as the drama unfolds, the owl is there with the perfect resource, and it will guide us through. Now, when the parrot is frightening us about the future, it's frightening us out of time, so our inner resources aren't there because it's not needed, right? The owl is the wisdom, the owl is the guidance, the owl is the safety. The owl is your true nature and can be trusted. So, do you recognise the owl? Have you stopped doing the things that make you, the owl's always there so you can't lose it, but make you more aware of it? Has the parrot been able to pull you so far away into this time travelling thing that even when you're doing a hobby or with your loved one, you're not really there? Physically you are, but your mind's all over the place. And so this is about allowing the space, taking a step back from the parrot, getting to know it, seeing its tricks, and opening up to the wisdom of this owl. So, I hope you like the parrot and the owl. I love this metaphor. It's so powerful. And, there's so much more I can say, but I'm aware of the time. So, homework. Just to recap, you are not your anxiety, okay? Anxiety might rise, and if there's a car coming towards you or something happening, you want that anxiety to arise because you want to use it as the rocket fuel to get away, to run away, okay? So that is necessary, and it will be perfect at the time. But the other part, the psychological anxiety, is a program. It's a habit. okay? It's the characteristic of this parrot having its way with us. So you're not that voice in the head. How amazing. What a relief. Okay? So what I'd like you to do for homework today is to begin to separate yourself from these three elements of anxiety. You know, starting to understand that when the body is feeling uncomfortable, the heart's pounding and stuff, it's the intelligence of the system trying to get us ready to run away. Okay? So seeing that is not dangerous, it's just the intelligence of the system. The emotions that come with it are, you know, again, if it's psychological anxiety, they're not necessary. Yeah, they're just adding to this sense of fear. Okay, so once the anxiety is being felt, you know, once the postman's delivered the letter, we don't need him standing or her standing at the door, you know, for the rest of the day. That would be just weird. So once we've had the sensation of anxiety, we've got the message. Either there is actually some physical danger here that we need to know about, or 9 times out of 10 it will be the mind trying to take us somewhere so we can catch it. Okay. And then the cognitive part, so starting to really understand that the thinking that we're doing is innocently perpetuating this process and spiraling. So what I'd like you to do is to begin. So give the anxiety or the inner voice or the parrot, whatever you want to call it, give it a form. You might want to use the parrot, but you might want to think of it as a wasp or a blob, or, you know, use your imagination to see what comes into your mind, and give it a name, and then put it outside of you. So it's something that you can, yes, have a relationship with, but it's not this big thing inside of you anymore. It's here, and we can start to look at it. You know, you never get yourself mixed up with a sofa, do you? Because there's a you in there and a sofa out there. The reason anxiety is so difficult is it feels like it's us. And so now we're starting to say, no, there's a you in there, that owl, that essence, and there's a program. And so we're trying to begin to separate, and obviously be kind with yourself, because this program wants to be identified as you, and so there might be a bit of resistance. So see how you get on. I hope you've enjoyed today's session, and I'll see you tomorrow. Oh, actually, I just want to tell you about some resources. So if you're not already in the Facebook group, you can go to a Free Mind community. There's different challenges in there, or on my YouTube channel. And just make myself smaller. You can get this free Tame Your Brain planner, which is 66 pages long, and it goes into all of this that you need to know about how to have a calmer and happier life. And if you want a paperback version, you can get that on Amazon. And finally, my online course is self-study. There's so much useful information about understanding who you are, how you work, how to have a more abundant, a happier, a more peaceful, creative life. And we do guided visualizations. There's lots of metaphors and stories. It's lifetime access, so you get it immediately and you can pace it yourself. There's £100 off it this week, because as I record this, it's Mental Health Week in the UK, and the theme is anxiety. And so you can get it for £47 instead of £147, which is a real bargain. And the coupon code at the checkout, when you click through, and I'll put the link next to the video somewhere, the coupon code, just add MHW for Mental Health Week 100, and you'll get £100 off. Okay, see you tomorrow. Bye.